Can't hide our voices say too much. Can't hide reality, it's not yours to hide. Light breaking, we are taking, this is our time. Just breathe, this will be a hard fight. The truth cash out in the night.
What's up, Johnny? How you doing, buddy?
Pretty good, Mr. Farabee. How you doing?
Doing pretty good. Pretty good. Today was a good day. Pretty happy. But having some issues with my microphone for some reason. Me and our guest were going over it, and it's the volume is dropping on its own. I'm watching it go down on its own. And then all of a sudden, StreamYard will mute me for no reason. It just mutes me on its own. Weird.
Yeah, I don't know. I've watched, there's a lot of podcasts being done on StreamYard, and it's just the technology is just not quite there yet, apparently. But it is what it is.
Yeah, it's very weird. It has nothing to do with anything I've done, So.
Well, I don't
So,
know, man.
happy birthday.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Appreciate that. Had a lot of people tell me happy birthday on Facebook, and I really appreciate all that. Miss Sunshine, hello. But yeah, been a good day. Been off today. Took the baby to the doctor. Um,
How's the baby doing?
Doing good. She's having tummy issues, but our first daughter, she had the same thing. So it'll probably be, I don't know, maybe a year of her squalling. Other than that, it'd be great. I used to
Yeah.
have to walk my other daughter around with. It always started at 5. We got lucky.
We did it
'Cause
the
it
old
would
school.
always start at.
We did it the old
How's
school
that?
way. We put them to bed. We are very strict about a bedtime, even on weekends during the summertime. Bedtime was bedtime. There was no stay late because it's summer or stay up late because there's no school the next day. And so when they were baby, we just put them in a room, and when they were screaming and crying, we just let them. You know what I mean? But
Yeah.
then they
Well,
learn. They
unfortunately,
learned.
when it's gas, it's not really like that.
Oh no,
You
yeah,
can't you can't when it's a stomach problem.
yeah.
You
That's
can't
that's
just
where you
let
have.
them can't let them scream it out.
Yeah, that's
But
where you have to really bring in the old school elbow smash. No, I'm just
well,
kidding, people. I'm just kidding.
my oldest daughter, she had the same thing, and about 5 o'clock every afternoon, she would get real colicky, and I would have to hold her with my arms around her stomach with her back on my stomach, and then just walk like back and
Right.
forth in the living room for like 3 hours, and then eventually it would go away. So.
I, s- I saw this on TikTok or one of those things where the doctor held the baby and did something with the legs, moving them like bending the knees and put them in a squat
Yeah,
position and doing that, and all of a sudden that baby goes,
yeah,
"Brrr," you know. The baby either farted or burped, but all of a sudden the baby
yeah.
was
You
just
gotta
silent.
bicycle her little legs and then move her hips and then press on
Yeah,
her stomach and do all this other stuff. Yeah, I know we've been doing that too.
good.
Yeah, but it's just part of it. But other than that, things are great.
Good, good. Yeah, I got there's been some issues at work, so I guess the end is near. Finally, we're at that point where I'm no longer needed, you know. Um, so, but some opportunities have arose, and I see a light at the end of the tunnel. I hope that we're negotiating, we're talking, and trying to come to a mutual agreement on on what they're going to offer and what I'm going to accept, and we're going back and forth. But it's open. I mean, it's really good. It's not like no absolute no's and no, we can't do that. It was like, yeah, we'll look into that for you, and that might be an option. Yeah, Spencer, he's coming, and So I'm really excited that the conversation is going very well. You know what I mean? But I did remind them today that we have time, um,
Yeah.
because next Wednesday is my last day at work, only because I'm starting vacation, and so I'll be in Ohio, um, with Icebox. I will be in Ohio and up at Salt Fork, State Park, and we're having a great time, a big outing up there, a lot of campers, and I'm going to be a guest speaker, and Icebox is speaking and stuff, and then I come back. I fly back on Sunday. Technically, Monday would be the end of my job, anyways. So I extended my
Yeah.
vacation till Wednesday, so I still get a couple more days worth of pay, and so we have until link that time until the following Thursday to make a decision and say, okay, this is what I'm going to do, and but so far it looks really good, really good. So
Good. Good.
so tonight's guest, I want to thank him before I even bring him on. That he's coming on tonight. Me and you both know him. He's a great guy. We've both done his show, and he's also had an encounter, and we'll talk about that also. About his encounter.
Yeah, I don't even know that I don't remember if I've heard his encounter or not. I can't
Yeah,
remember.
he'll go through it all, but that kind of got him in the road of getting into it, and we'll let him go through that process and tell us what happened, and everything. But we just so everybody knows, we did have a guest lined up for tomorrow night. He was in Australia. We were going to talk about the Yowie and stuff like that, but evidently there's some kind of issue between whatever, and that show's not going to happen. So we decided, hey, let's do it on a Thursday. Let's kind of change it up a little bit, do it on a Thursday, and I called Icebox, my buddy, and he said, hey, you want to be on the show? And he said, absolutely. So here we are. So let me bring him on.
Uh-oh, caught me.
Called him.
Yep, caught me. How you guys doing?
Good,
Good
good,
man. How
good.
you doing?
I'm doing just great.
Just so everybody understands, Icebox is wearing my shirt for my channel, and I'm wearing his shirt for his channel.
I would have been wearing the one that Richard gave me for his channel, except he gave me a medium, and I hadn't worn a medium since I was about 14. So
That means some girl somewhere got
it
a
would have
large or
been.
an extra large.
It probably would have been up here. I would have been a belly shirt the whole time.
Yeah, I'm
Show
sorry
them
about that.
goods, baby. Show them goods.
I wish I had paid attention, but I thought I had them all labeled and everything, and
No, it's all good. My daughter wears it. My daughter's been wearing it, so it got used. So that's the important thing.
as long as she wears it to school.
Yeah, I don't know. Knowing her, she'll wear whatever she wants. So could be. It could be in the rotation.
Well, I got one of those shows that's for 18 and up too, so they probably can't subscribe. So,
Yeah.
but so how you doing,
Yeah,
Tommy?
I'm doing good, doing good. I want to say hi to everybody in the chat room: Spencer, Ralph, Sharon, Verix, and Stephen Higgs, and I can't forget Miss Sunshine. We
Yeah,
love Miss
absolutely.
Sunshine. We love seeing her. Miss Sharon and Wendell, and I think that's pretty much everybody that I've seen so far. But anyways, I want to say hi to them, and we appreciate you guys coming over here and listen to Sasquatch Unredacted. I've been waiting for this.
Yeah,
I have been
he,
waiting.
yeah, Johnny, he's simulcasting right now. So,
I am.
Oh, is
I
he?
am. Yeah, it's
yeah,
on 4 channels right now.
yeah.
Good Lord. It's saying recording error on my end. Is it saying that
Uh-oh.
on your end?
Nope.
No.
Well, I'm not recording anything, so you're telling the wrong person there.
Yeah, yeah. It says right now the only button I got is end stream, so it looks like it's doing pretty good.
Yeah.
Cool. So, Icebox, I'm
So,
sure there's a ton of people that already know you already, but where are you located at?
Right now, I'm located north of Fort Wayne, Indiana. Up
Okay.
there, in a little town they call Huntertown. Uh, I'm originally from Alabama, born and raised in Huntsville. Got married and I moved out to Newmarket, and now I live up here. Just to keep a short story as far as that goes, lost some family and realized how important it was. And my wife's from up here, so I moved her up here so she could see her family.
Okay. Well, that's good.
Yeah, so
Good
yeah,
on you.
yeah. Well, I miss Bama. I do. I miss Bama. But anyways, I guess you said you hadn't heard my story before. Is that correct?
Well, I can't remember if we talked about it much before or not. You interviewed me, but I don't know if I've watched an interview with you or not. I've watched a lot of you interview other people, but I don't
Yeah,
know that I've seen you tell your story all the way.
yeah. Well, I haven't talked about it much. You know what I mean? Because I'm like you guys. I get a guest or whatever, and I'm really wanting to hear what they've got to say. And I'm basically just an ear listening. You know what I mean there. But
Yeah.
uh, uh, that's where Spencer. He's a mess. He's my buddy. Spencer.
Yeah.
He's a mess. But yeah, I like listening to other folks and asking because I like learning, of course, and because I tell people you don't know they get a little yell or a little scream or something, and that's like they think, well, my story is not something that's going to knock your socks off, and I'm like, you don't understand. Just that little bit of information will help somebody else down the road. It'll help build up your database in your own mind. That kind of stuff. So I think every story is interesting. Just to be honest with you.
Right.
But yeah, that's what I enjoy doing. But anyways, all right. I'll tell
Well,
you what.
take us into it, man.
Yep, I'm gonna go ahead and take you into it. This happened back in 1982 or 84. It's been so long ago, guys. I don't even try to remember the exact year. I know it was around October.
I was still in high school.
Yeah, yeah. Well, you make me feel old, brother.
Well, then I won't tell
Uh,
you I was in diapers then.
yeah, yeah. By the way, happy birthday, brother. And by the way,
Thank
Miss
you very
Sharon,
much. Very much.
congratulations on your grandbaby. All right. So, anyways,
Oh, we got
yeah, there's another one. Miss Sharon got a new grandbaby. I think she says
well,
9 months
good.
old.
Congratulations, Miss Sharon.
All right. So, I had got married from out of Huntsville, and I moved to Newmarket, and I finally got a second shift job where I'd have to be there at like 1:30, 2:30 in the afternoon, and I wouldn't get off till about 12:30, something like that. It was a 10-hour day job, and it was through the week, Monday through Thursday, and so I really couldn't mess around with anybody because my hours uh, were different than everybody else's. Y'all, excuse me, my eyes have been watering all day today for some reason. But anyways,
You can
uh,
cry if you want to.
yeah, it's my party. So I had to go do something, entertain myself. So there was a fishing pond, and where I lived, there was rolling hills and woods where I could go squirrel hunting, deer hunting, and if I didn't want to do one of those, I could go fishing. And what I would do, my house is on top of a hill, and when I say house, I mean trailer. Okay. And in the front of it was like 3 blocks high. Backside was about like one and a half, something like that. But anyways, you go down this hill, you hit the top of a hill, you walk out a little ways, and it goes down the side of a hill. There's a little road there. Grass never really grew very tall on that particular road. To the sides, yeah, but not on the road itself. And you go down through that road, and you come down to the bottom, and you got a hillside, and another hillside, and it all converges and kind of gets a little stream there. But you go through there across the barbed wire fence. Now I'm in a field. You go down it, and I've got like 7 ponds I can fish out of. So that's what my routine would be during the week and weekend too. I would get up Mondays and I'd go fishing or I would go hunting. Anniston, Alabama. Yes, sir. You know where I'm talking about, Huntsville and Newmarket. Anyways, that was my routine for quite a while, years, baby. And You don't have to mute yourselves, guys. But anyway, so I would go down through there, and that hillside that I would face was always in shade, and it kind of spooked me a little bit, but no big deal, you know. So one afternoon, I started coming back from fishing, and I was about halfway up the hill, and the hair on the back of my neck just literally stood up, and I couldn't tell you why, because I don't know why. And I would look up that hill, and there was a little dark spot there, like a little depression, and I couldn't see anything, so I just kept on walking, thinking about why in the world my hair would stand up on end, because I've never had that happen. But about a week or so later, I'm coming back through there again. This time, I've got a rifle. I've been squirrel hunting, same place, same area, and about the same spot. That hair stood up on my back of my neck again. And, I've seen the movies. I've seen Sasquatch Mountain, I believe it was called, one of them old 1970 movies. And I'm thinking there, okay, what if that was a Bigfoot? Messing around with my own head, you know what I mean? And I'm sitting there getting on top of the hill, and I'm sitting there thinking, what would I do if it was one? Just messing around. So I'm thinking, okay, if it comes after me, I've got 17 shots in this 22 stingers. It's going to hurt, And if it's still coming after them 17 shots, I'll take that hot barrel and I'll whack him right across the knees, buddy. I'll make it home. That's my thoughts. That's what I'm thinking. So I get home and I just let it go, no big deal. And I would say probably because, anybody from Alabama knows by the time it gets squirrel season, you're going to start having fall weather, thunderstorms, and that kind of deal. So I'm sitting at home and this thunderstorm comes up and I'm interested in weather. So I got out and just opened up my door, and probably about 40 yards away, lightning had struck and hit a tree. When it hit that tree, immediately something went to yelling. I mean, it was loud, and didn't sound like anything I had ever heard before. And I'm sitting there, okay, that is really bad. Okay, could have been cows, because that property had cows on it probably about a year before. So that next day, I went out there and I looked, and there are no cows to be found nowhere on the property whatsoever. He must have sold them all. So I'm sitting there thinking, what in the world made that yell? Could it be my imagination is getting to run wild with me? I didn't know. So I'm sitting there, and my wife one night, it's kind of funny, but my wife went outside, and she all of a sudden come running in. It was dark. And when she come running in, she just slammed the door, and she backed up and just looked at that door. I said, okay, something's out there. Then freaked her out. She heard something. And I don't know if it was a growl, purr, whatever, but something scared her, So I didn't think much about it. And it rocked on. This one Sunday afternoon, my wife decided she was going to go to church. I decided to stay home. I was wanting to watch the movie Bad News Bears. And I liked that little kid, that little blonde head kid. He was a mess. So anyways, I'm laying on the couch. I've got my head propped up. I can see straight down my hallway. We had them old-fashioned roll-out windows. And I'm sitting there looking and just watching TV. And all of a sudden, this is after 6 o'clock. There's still daylight. Something blacked out the window down at the end of my bedroom, down the end of the hallway. And I looked, and I'm like, what was that? So I took a look out of the picture frame window that I'm sitting there laying beside. And out there behind the house is a 64 Bel Air type Chevrolet with no wheels. It's got plumbing parts all in it. And my daddy-in-law said, if somebody comes down there and gets plumbing parts, don't bother. I'll send them down there. I said, okay, no problem. So what I'm doing is I'm looking to see if somebody comes down there and gets some plumbing parts. It wasn't. When I looked out the window, it made the turn around my trailer, and it was looking at the car. So I got to see the profile of its jawline, its face, its body, just everything, head to toe. And I want people to understand something right here and right now. Back in them days, you had to put up clear plastic over your windows to keep the cold from coming in. All right. It wasn't real thick. It wasn't foggy. It was clear as saran wrap. Okay. And I could make out a lot of stuff. And when I saw that, the first thought in my head was, well, one thing I was wondering what it was. And okay, am I seeing what I'm really seeing? And I decided, okay, I'm going to lay down, put my head back here, and see if it keeps on coming down the side of the trailer. Because when it made that turn, or when it was looking at the car, it made the turn and it was coming straight down the side of the trailer. So sure enough, I laid back, and out of the corner of that top window, I seen it come into view again. And it was looking down inside that window, looking at me. And it walked right by me and just kept on going. And I seen the movies. That's my next thought. I seen the movies. They like to, reach in these windows and grab somebody out of surprise, once they done passed you. So I'm sitting there kind of watching that window, and directly I just eased off that couch. I didn't stand up. I eased off till I got to the floor. Then I stood up and I went and got my 22 again. Guys, I don't know anything really about these creatures, So I'm going by what I think. I go outside, go out the front door, and I go hollering for it. And I don't get no response. I don't hear nothing. Nowhere. No walking, nothing. Okay. So I walked back inside the house and really didn't, you ponder about it, but I finished watching my movie. It wasn't doing anything. So I went to work and I told these guys at work, about what happened. And they're like, you're full of it, this and that. And I said, okay. They said, tell you what, we'll come out there to your property and see what's going on. I said, it's fine with me. So they come out there and I tell them the same story. And they said, let's go outside. I said, all right. So we went outside, and when you did, from the back of the house, you could hear it walking. You could hear it in the leaves. And it was going, you got to remember, my front yard is a hill. My backyard is also a hill. And you could hear it walking down back into the ravine. As it got down there to the bottom, I don't know where these dogs or coyotes or whatever it was, it sounded like dogs to me. I don't know where in the world they come from. I've been down them woods, I don't know how many times. But them two dogs started barking at whatever it was walking, and directly you would hear one go, yep. What dog left? They barked just a little bit more. Yep. And that dog was gone. And it just took off running, and it ran back up the hill. And about this time, all five of them guys that were so brave said, go get your gun. There's something out there. I said, well, I know something out there. Yeah. So I go get my gun. They thought they might have seen it, but no, I don't think they did. They might have did. But anyways, that was the first part of my encounter with what I thought, or I still think, was a Bigfoot.
Now that ended up opening up that rabbit hole for you, then, huh?
In a way. The thing about it was I was never scared of it. I don't know why. It never done anything. Now, had it tried to reach through the window or yelled at me personally or something, I might have had a different view back then. But I was never scared of it. I would keep going hunting and fishing and whatever else I wanted to do, But yeah, it kind of opened up, but not particularly. I think when it really opened up is when I turned in my story to the BFRO.
What happened after that?
The BFRO?
Yeah, what changed from turning your story in?
Well, back in them days, the internet wasn't big and blowed up like it is now. Computers everywhere. So when I finally got a computer, I was looking up Bigfoot stuff, I guess, because I've always been interested in it. And there was I think the GCBRO, Texas BRO, and of course you got the BRFRO. And I thought they was the biggest, so I filed a report. And at that time, David Sedati, I think both of y'all know him. was
Oh yeah.
in the BFRO, and he got my report. And he called me, and me and him talked, and stuff like that. And I gave him my report, just same story I told you guys just now. And I asked him, I said, do you have anybody doing reports up here in North Alabama? They checked and said, no, we don't. I said, you care if I try to do it? And they said, no, we don't care. So that's how I got into the BFRO. And they would send me reports, and I would get to go check them out. And some of them were very interesting, and some of them you would not believe what you would learn from these people.
Well, what? Well, you got a couple stories in mind that impressed you, or that really stick out that you can tell us?
Yeah, I got a few. One of my favorites, I'll tell you it, and uh, it was a deputy sheriff from Dixon, Tennessee. I turned in a report, and they gave it to me. And this was like around Thanksgiving or something or another. And anyways, whatever it was, I left a family get together early to go talk to this man. And he told me that he was riding the road and coming around this curve, and something had jumped up from one side of the road, ran across in front of him on two legs, and jumped down the other side of the road. So I went to check out his property and stuff like that, and got his report. He said, I got some people I want you to talk to. I said, love it. Love it. One of them, the guy was in his bedroom and said that the guy had got up and looked out his window, and there were two Bigfoot right there by his window, a male and female. And they were looking out in the woods, never paid him no attention. He said, so I looked out there in the woods myself, and he could see a juvenile Bigfoot out there running around being chased from a dog. He said he got scared, closed his curtain in the back, and he don't know what happened. I thought that was okay. That was interesting. You learn, you know. And he took me to somebody else, and the lady was an Indian. And they were kind of rough, you know, you're in the back hills of Tennessee. And she come out, and I got a chance to talk to her, and she told me she went to a part of a road, and there's a big, huge rock there that overlooks over onto the next hill. If you ever been to Tennessee, you know what I'm talking about. She said, I'm sitting there watching, and this little young baby, a Bigfoot, not a baby, but a juvenile, come running up the hill, and said about middle ways of her view, said it jumped. It went around a tree, grabbed a limb, and jumped up in the tree. Directly here come these two hound dogs, hot on his trail. Said it went up, went around the tree, and went right back out the way that it came. And I'm sitting there, what an amazing story. How smart could that little creature be? You know, I've seen other creatures do it, but not run around a tree and then get up there in it and throw it off. Never heard that before. And I thought that was one of the most interesting stories I'd ever heard.
That is pretty amazing.
Oh, I'll tell you this one. A couple guys from Tuscaloosa turned in a report, and they said something about they had rocks thrown at them. And I got the report. I called them up, got everything. And they said, well, you know, if you don't believe us or whatever, you come down here, we'll show you the spot. I said, okay. I mean, not that I didn't believe them, but I said, okay, that sounds good to me. So I went down there on a Saturday, and they put me in their little bass boat and showed me, said they pulled right up and said, we were sitting right here fishing, and these boulders come off the side of, when I say boulders, you know, big rocks, was coming off the hill, almost hitting the boat. I said, really? I said, I mean, you can't really ask for what animal you think it is. You know what I mean? Because what other animal is going to pick up a rock and throw it in the water? Mm-hmm. So I said, I'll tell you what, can you get me on that spot? They said, yeah. They drove up just a little bit, and there's a little slough. We pulled up in it and parked the boat, got out, and we walked just a little ways, not far, And one of the guys goes, "Hey man, there's something watching us." Well, I don't doubt people, especially at that time and that age. I said, "Where's it coming from?" He said, "It's coming up from up that hill right there." This hill, guys, is just almost straight up. It's covered with 3 to 4 foot tall weeds, and one side of it was trees, little saplings. I said, "I'll tell you what I'm going to do. I'm going to go up that hill. The way this hill looks, it looks like it fingers down. You guys go over there and come back up, and if it's something up there, we'll see if we can't chase it or so we can see what it is." I said, "Okay." Guy asked me if I wanted a 9mm. I said, "No, that's okay. I'm not worried about it." So I start climbing up this hill, realizing how stupid I was because I should have been the one going around that dadgum hill. So I'm having to use, little saplings to get up this hill. And I get up top, and there's a little outbreak of some boulders, and I'm talking about real boulders where you can sit down. And I'm sitting there, and of course I'm smoking a cigarette, and I hear something probably about like 20, 25 feet away, maybe. And it sounded like mumbling. I'm looking, what in the world is coming off of this little hillside, not far away from me in these weeds? And I'm sitting there listening, and I heard it again. I was taken back. I don't know what I'm listening to. So these guys finally make it up there and come around behind me, and I was kind of a little ticked. I said, "You guys think you're funny." Exact words I used. And they said, "What are you talking about?" I said, "Well, it's not y'all over here trying to make noise a while ago." And they go, "Man, we just now got here." He said, "That little finger you're talking about, it was way out there. We like to never got up it." I said, "All right, it's time to leave because there's something in these weeds that I didn't tell them, but I wasn't going to hang around because I'm trying the life of me to figure out what would be in these weeds at that steep of an incline," and sitting there mumbling, just like it was talking to something else. That's what it sounded like to me. But that one there, that's when I listen to you guys, and I've listened to other shows, and somebody starts calling samurai talk. That's what I when I hear that, that's where I go back to. I reference that mumbling. I don't know what it was or what was saying, but with the story, their encounter, and the place that we were at, the only thing I can figure it was one of them creatures, and I didn't want to fool with it. Not on that hillside.
Yeah.
Yep. So is that all the questions you got about my story?
Well, I was going to go back. I was going to go back to the property.
Well,
where you had
mine
the
was,
sighting.
you kind of said that's the first part of the story. Was there a second part of the story, or you just?
Oh yeah, there's a little more, not as far as a sighting. I've only seen it one time, and that
Right.
was and you got to remember, guys, it was full body. And when it went by me, there's just a thin wall between me and it, so it's within 3 feet. If it wanted to get in or get me, I had no chance. I didn't know that then, but I had no chance. But
How big do
no,
you think
there's
it was?
how big do I know it was? Is a better
Yeah.
question. 7'3".
Good God.
7'3".
You went out
It
there and
was.
did measurements and stuff, huh?
Yes, yes, sir, I did. I sure did. And that was what I call the best guesstimate because you got to remember, uh, its head was over the window, and I know the angle, and I went out and to try not to exaggerate, it could have been 7'4", 5, something like that, but 7'3" at minimal. And I tell a lot of people it's 7 foot tall, just so I don't have to explain it. But yeah, it was 7'3", maybe an inch or two more. And no, I'm gonna give you the description. When it went by, I could not make out the eyes. I can't make out the nose. Nothing like that. Because remember that plastic's over there. So whether I
Right.
tell you that the face was just solid black. What part got me was I never seen no white in the eyes, and I still ponder that every now and then myself to this day. Why did I not see no whites? There's not many animals that's going to be just solid black eyes, you know.
Mm.
The jawline, and I always tell people that I'm not trying to say anything goofy or funny. It reminded me of Patrick Ewing. If you ever watch Patrick Ewing when he's playing basketball and he sits on the bench, he's looking, you can see his complete outline. His jawline protrudes out a little bit more. And that's the way this creature's jawline was. It seemed to protrude out. Now, when it turned, his shoulders wasn't what I call sloped. They were broad, more or less squared up. The gut itself was not barrel chested. It was basically a what every bodybuilder would want to look like, you know. And I can't tell you about the neck or anything because it didn't seem like it was extremely long or anything like that. It was kind of shortish, if you ask me. But the arms wasn't what I call hanging around the knees. Nothing like that. It just seemed big, and that's all I could tell you. It wasn't like you hear people say barrel chested and that kind of stuff. Didn't seem that way to me. It's just like you get say not as big as Arnold Schwarzenegger type, but he was just a big being. That's all I can tell you.
Yeah.
But that's my best description of it. Let's put it that way.
Have you
Now,
had
how long
any?
did?
Oh, go ahead.
Go ahead, Richard. No, go ahead.
Have you had any other signs out there? That now you look back on, and anything in the woods when you were back there, or anything like that that you didn't pay attention before the sighting, but after the sighting, it kind of opened up your eyes a little bit.
Well, that hillside, like I said, always bothered me. And I've sat there and I've hunted it maybe twice. And I just never could sit there. Uh, yeah, well, that depends on them. But anyways, I never could sit there and hunt. I might would sit there 10, 15 minutes and I'm like, no, I got to go. This place just spooks me out, you know. Come a little bit later, they sold that property to a gentleman from out of the city somewhere. And I asked him, could I hunt, still fish? And he said, yeah, you sure can. And I went down there and they set up a tent up on top of that spooky hill. So I went up there, see if he was there, I knew he was camping out. And I looked in there and there was books everywhere, scattered everywhere. Well, I didn't go in, I just seen it. So I seen him probably about a day or two later. And I said, I seen your tent out there. How you like staying out there? He said, did you go in here and mess up my tent? I said, no, sir, I sure didn't. I said, I seen the tent. I said, it was open. And I looked in, I seen them books, and that was all. I walked off. And he said, something got in there and messed everything up. I said, well, it wasn't me. I already knew something else was something else, all right. He just didn't know what it was, But now, as far as that goes, as any signs, I didn't know to look for anything. I mean, you guys know just as well as I do. You're going to hear tweet twists, footprints, tree bows, just all kinds of little signs. You know what I'm saying? No, the only thing I could ever say I found out there was deer rubs and deer scrapes. That's about it. Nothing else to give away that there might be a Bigfoot in the territory. No.
How large is that property?
I can't tell you how many acres as far as that goes. I know it backed up to a campground that was rarely used, and it was across the ponds over there. It was right there by a creek and the ponds. But the creek is kind of like across a field, and there's high embankment, almost bluff type on the other side of it. There's plenty, let's put it this way, plenty of property. I got to telling this story to a couple that their car had broke down, and being a gentleman, I tried to give them a ride home. Well, they lived up in Flintville, Tennessee. So I'm sitting there telling them the story, and he said, believe it or not, Bigfoot likes to hang out at the fishery. I said, really? He said, yeah, I can believe it. Well, I followed the trail of trees from my house up to that fishery in a direct line. Doesn't break. Doesn't break. There's a direct line from that fishery down there to my property or where I lived.
So these are, what kind of breaks are we talking about?
What kind of breaks? What do you mean by breaks? You talk
Now,
about tree breaks?
yeah, you're kind of buffering on my end. Are you saying there were tree breaks from
No,
your property up there?
no, no,
Oh,
no,
well, I
no.
must have.
No, from that fishery, there was a set of woods that would go straight from that fishery down to my property. It didn't break up. I mean, you might cross the road, but
Oh,
you know
okay,
what I mean.
okay, yeah,
In other words, they
I
had a
got you.
way to get. Yeah, they was following that creek, is what they were doing.
I got you.
Hmm. But
Man, I bet you wish, I bet you wish you would have had the knowledge back then that you do now.
absolutely, absolutely. But being young, didn't know. Even when I got in the BFRO, I learned a lot from the BFRO, but it wasn't because of them. It's because of the reports I got. Uh,
Yeah.
I will tell you this, and I really shouldn't, because I really don't know. I had a pit bull, sweet little thing, and I got her a doghouse that was probably, I'm gonna say 4 foot, maybe 4.5 feet tall, built like a house. It was heavy, and the front of, I mean, it was walled all the way around, and the front of it had partial wall up where you would call the rafters, that little triangle was open. And then of course you had the door where the dog could go in. I got up one morning and well, let me put it to you like this. One afternoon I went outside and my dog had gotten loose. And she come home, I mean, just happy go lucky. She had blood running from her chin onto her chest and on her paws. I said, what in the world, girl, have you got? Because she's not mean at all. I said, what have you gotten into? I didn't know. So I called my neighbors up the road there and I said, are y'all missing any cats? Because I was going to make it right if that's what happened. And they said, no, we're not missing no cats. So we don't know what she got into. And I would say just a little bit after that, she got hung. And you guys could tell me, how does a dog that's maybe just a little bit about a foot tall jump over that little 2x4 not only once, but back over it again and hang herself?
Mm.
You tell me how that does that. Because when I found her, the rope was tight and it was holding up her body and where her bottom end was touching the ground. I don't know how she done it. I thought maybe somebody got ticked off. But no, nobody knows anything. Let's put it that way. So,
Yeah, there's no way to know that, but you definitely
right.
would not be the first person to report having these things kill a dog, though. Unfortunately,
Yeah. And that's the only
we've
reason I
we've
brought it
all
up.
heard those. Yeah,
Yeah. And I brought it up in case somebody else could use that information if they're having suspect, you know what I mean?
yeah. There's and I have I've told my story about how it seemed like they were testing my dogs, but it did not seem aggressive at all. But my property's got a horse fence around it, and they don't go out of the fence unless, if we leave or something, they'll sneak out. But for the most part, while we're here, they stay in the fence. And, a lot of people are convinced that, they're trying to kill my dog or dogs or whatever. And I'm like, well, it's been 8 years and I've seen these things run. If they wanted to kill my dog at any given moment, they could do it. I don't have any, there's no question in my mind. I don't think that's what they're doing. But I tell you this, if they got out and went after one, I don't think they'd have a problem killing one at all, because you hear it so often. But I don't
Hmm.
think they just have some vendetta, to kill all dogs. But I would imagine with something like that wants to move around silently and
Hmm.
live its life, and we don't know, it may, they take one bite from a dog, who's to say that, it doesn't get infected and they, all these, there's just so many things we don't know. But it makes perfect sense to me if you're moving around people's houses and you want to stay hidden or
Hmm.
discreet. What are you going to do? You're going to get rid of that alarm system, So,
Yeah, yeah, that's right. You take out the strong man. Uh, and I'm the last house on that road. And there's not another house probably for like 500-600 yards before you get to mine. Uh,
yeah,
and to where it come from, who's to say that it might have found it and tried to bite it, and if it did, the blood that was on her, she must have bit it good, is all I can tell you. I
right,
couldn't find no deer or anything, no carcasses for it to get a hold of, that kind of deal. So I don't know. It's just awful strange that after that happened, I find her hung. And I, you basically have to jump over that thing, like I said, and then jump back through it again to get hung like that.
Mm.
I don't understand it myself. I really don't. But somebody might could use that later. But I'll tell you this
right,
much. We moved from there and we bought some property basically just right up the road, still in the same area, same hollers, everything else. And uh, I had got, of course, a different job. And one night I'd have to leave like 4 o'clock in the morning to go to Birmingham. I had a company vehicle, all that kind of stuff. So I get out there, I crank up, or as I'm walking out there to my truck, I hear something walking in the woods behind my house there. And I knew right away. I mean, everybody here, everybody that's ever deer hunted, you know what a deer sounds like walking in the woods. This was not a deer. It walked straight up the hill, walked over there, and I'm late. I got to go. I ain't got time to fool with you. So I jumped my truck, cranked it up, and I left. And I come back at the end of the day, about 4 o'clock in the afternoon, whatever. And I said, I wonder if that thing had left some kind of footprint or something like that. I walked out there to where first heard it walking. It's right there by a persimmon tree. I don't find nothing except a stick stuck in the ground. I pull this stick up and it looks, oh, I'm going to say almost like 2 feet long, maybe a little longer. It's broke on one end like this. And over here on the other side, it's broke the same way, same direction. But on this end, it is covered up with about 6 inches, 7 inches of dirt. And at the end of it was smooth, round. And it had like little hair bristles on the end of it, like it had been used. The
Mm.
other end was still jagged from the break. So what left that is what I'm curious about. I mean, I have my suspicions.
Yeah, I've ran into something almost exactly like that, and yeah, I got photos of it where I hold it up, and
Mm-hmm.
you can see where it was wet and dirty up to a certain
Mm-hmm.
point, and then dry because it was in the ground, in the and it was not sharp like a spear, but it was definitely you know kind of pointed. You know what I mean? Where, like you said, the other end was jagged, like it was broken off, but the
Mm-hmm.
other end was smooth. You know what I mean? And but
Yeah.
not sharp. You know what I mean? But it was a spear kind of point, but it was not sharp or anything like that. And they had to go through about at least 3 or 4 inches of leaf litter that was on the ground. It's one of those areas where you walk through; it's kind of spongy, so I don't see it breaking off a tree and falling and getting through all of that and then into the ground, about 3 inches. And I've tried it myself, and being over 200 pounds and putting all my weight into it and pushing it, I couldn't get it past the leaf litter. It would only go down a couple inches, but it wouldn't go through the full, 4 inches or so of leaf litter. So very strange. And I found that numerous times in the exact same area. Where a week later I'll go back and there's two more sticks stuck in the ground. I try not to disturb them anymore. I don't pull them out of the ground and check them out. I'll just kind of tug on them a little bit to make sure it's not a dead growing tree. It doesn't have roots, and I'll move it a little bit, but I always leave it now. I don't take it out of the ground.
Mm-hmm. Well, I mean, mine was smooth, just like the tip of your thumb. Is that it was rounded, but like I said, it had little bitty hair bristles. I have to tell you the full description. That it had little bitty hair bristles, just like it was being used for a while. Let's put it that way. Wendell said something about he had a dog hang. It was strange. I think he knows what I'm talking about. I think he knows.
Yeah.
But anyways, after I got in the BFRO and done some reports, and I learned a little bit, I decided to put some things to a test. So I walk out in these woods that I regularly hunted. I've got no weapon, no gun, not hunting at all. And I walked over to a particular part of a hillside, and I'm sitting there. You know what? I think I'll do a tree knock. I'm out there by myself, entertain myself, you might say. So I grabbed this tree limb, probably about the size of my arm, maybe not as big, probably about like 3.5 inches, 4 maybe. And it was probably about 2 foot long. So I sat there, it was solid. It wasn't rotten. And I grabbed that thing and I hit the tree 3 times. Immediately, I got a response. I mean, immediately. It wasn't no 30 seconds later. Immediately, I got a 3 knock back. And I'm like, okay, that's interesting because it was from where I'm standing, the hill run north and south. I'm at the north end. It comes from the south end off the side. I said, I'm gonna do this. I'm gonna rap on it twice and see, because I'm thinking it could have been an echo. You got to test yourself. So I sat there and I hit it twice. I got another 3 knock back immediately. I said, okay, that's enough. It's time for me to go home. I don't want to know what was answering me with those 3 tree knocks. I didn't know, and I didn't want to know. You know what I'm saying? It's time for me to go home. Had I been armed, okay, I might have sat out there a little bit longer, but I might have made it mad. I don't know.
You know, the unfortunately, from what I've seen, there's this common misconception that tree knocks don't work, and I think it's because of the Finding Bigfoot TV show. I guess people they didn't take it seriously because they were doing it. I guess it's kind of how I guess on camera it looks silly, but it works. I know it works. I don't know why they do it. I don't know why they do it back. I don't know why they do it to each other 100%. I mean, we can all speculate. But it is something they do 100%. And they will respond to them from what I've seen personally. So hopefully that
I've only done it once.
misconception could be, yeah. Hopefully that could be put to bed, because I mean, it does work.
Yeah, I personally don't do them because a lot of times I'm by myself. I just like it quiet so I can hear. But I do agree with Tennessee, Kentucky Bigfoot, where I lean more towards on being vocals. That response. I mean, to me, this is my opinion, we use the term wood knock for less of a better term, but
because of what it sounds like.
Yeah, and like I said, I've made that comment many times in the past on the show and on different interviews that there's never been a report of a Bigfoot just walking around carrying a stick wherever he goes. You know what I mean? So I just lean more towards a vocalization of some sort or some kind of they're making a noise with their body some way or something like that. Do they do it? Absolutely. I think they do. I've been in areas where I got knocks out of nowhere. I've gotten rock clacking out of nowhere. So I think, I just try not to initiate it because in my mind, I don't know what I'm saying when I do that to them. And I really don't want to create a situation that I can't handle. But that's just me.
Well, I think that. Go ahead.
I was torn on that too myself on actually how they're making. I mean, there's reports of them slapping their chest or using rocks or doing whatever else, and I was torn on that myself until I started having the activity down at the sitting spot. When you have I've recorded them throwing things and like breaking limbs to the point where you can hear the break and then you hear them running off. And then when you hear wood knocks mixed in with that, there's they have this infatuation with using branches and trees to make noise. And they also use them to I'm a little I don't know what to think about a lot of the research out there done on structures. I don't know,
Mm-hmm.
there's no way to really know, I guess, unless you see it made. But I've experienced the one stick thing, like Icebox has, numerous times. So you've got this pattern of them using branches and trees for all these other things. And then you have a sound that sounds like wood hitting wood. I just don't
Mm-hmm.
see why it wouldn't be. I'm not saying they can't because they make all kinds of other noises, like mimicking animals. And, we've heard stories of them mimicking all kinds of, people yelling for their dogs and everything else. I'm not saying that's not, it's in the realm of possibility that they can make that, but I just don't see why. I mean, it just kind of fits with everything else they do when it comes to limbs and branches and trees. It's like that's just something they use, and they seem to know that we react to those things. It's like they do it intentionally. They know that when they break something or make a noise, it gets our attention, and it seems to be very intentional. So, just speculation, though. All this is, unless you actually see a Sasquatch making the noise or holding something, every bit of it's speculation.
Right.
So, I don't know.
Well, I have to agree with you, but I'm still not sold. Uh, I'm kind of keeping it in reserve. I've heard mouth pops. I've heard banging on the chest. I've heard that they could probably, like, how we used to do as a kid, the underarm stuff. And
Hmm.
I've heard just numerous things. And that's the reason when I tell my stories, I try to tell them as accurate as I can get them. Not because I'm wanting to dramatize anything. I'm telling you just exactly how it happened. You know, if it was 30 seconds later, I would tell you, but it wasn't. It was, I ain't gonna say it was right behind me, but it was close enough that, like y'all say, it ain't got time to sit around and look for a tree branch to answer the first knock. It don't have that kind of time. So is it a tree knock? Is it mouth popping? I'm still not sold on either one of them yet, just yet. Let's put it that way.
Yeah, it's especially down here. Like, I'm not going to say I've never tried to tree knock in the past. I just don't do it anymore, and it's been years since I've attempted it. But what the one thing I do know, living here in Florida, is you're not going to tree knock on a pine tree, and that's 90% of the trees that we have here. It's
Hmm.
always really large pine forests. Um, you can hit a pine tree with a baseball bat, and it's more of a thud because the bark on a pine tree is so thick, and it gives. Where I would say to get a good knock, you need a hardwood, oak or down here we have cypress, and cypress is a very hard tree. I mean, they make tables out of it and stuff.
Hmm.
That would make a good knock, but a lot of the areas that I'm in, it's mostly pine. So I'm like, I just, like I said, it's all my personal experiences and what makes sense to me, and it just makes sense that it's a vocal more than it is anything. Not saying they don't hit trees, just that I lean more towards vocalization.
Well, let me ask you this, both of you. If you hear a tree knock, is there any doubt in your mind what it could be?
Well, I don't again I lean with Johnny, and until you see it, do it. But it goes right back into the same thing, in the same category as throwing rocks or rock clacking. Is it's going to have a hand. It's going to have a thumb. It's got to grip whatever it is
Hmm.
to swing and hit a tree. So if I just narrow it down from there, then it can only be two possibilities. It's either, you know an unknown creature or it's a human out there. Because bears don't do it, and deer don't do it, and panthers don't do it, and stuff. I know all the animals that we have in the state of Florida, so I can narrow it down to at least those two things. See what I'm saying? So then you narrow it down further, thinking, okay, I'm 2 miles into a 12,000 acre area. I can start narrowing it down that it might not be a person this far out there, especially where I go breaking brush and stuff like that. So, we can use reasoning and narrow it down. Does it make it right? No, but it's I can narrow it down.
Well, we sit there and, I'm sure there's a lot of people in the chat room, us three guys, we hear something or noise, we try to eliminate the obvious, is what I call it. Is it a skunk? If you got a smell, is there skunks around? If you hear some kind of, I've never heard a tree clacking, so I can't voice an opinion on that. But if you hear a tree snap, could have been a squirrel that come down, got on a weak limb or something. We always try to eliminate what we would call the obvious and see what we're left with. I think a lot of times that we do that, we usually have a pretty good reasonable suspicion, especially when you hear these little stories that I was talking about earlier, that will build your database up and make you wonder about what they actually do. I've got my own opinions just as well as y'all do, but that's that would be too long of a show. Let's put it that way.
Yeah.
Well, one of the things that we have down here, and I've seen it once in my 56 years of life, but I might get this wrong. I know we have a woodpecker here that is huge. It's massive. And it's basically the Bigfoot or the woodpecker they use for woody woodpecker. I think down here they call it a reticulated woodpecker, but I'm not sure. Don't quote me on that. I don't know my birds. And I've seen it once in flight one time, and I can imagine that thing pecking a tree. How loud that would be. You know what I mean? So I can't leave out the fact that wood knocks could be something else. I just narrow it down to those two things that I mentioned before. But like I said, we do have some strange animals in the state of Florida.
Okay. Yeah.
Okay. TWT says it's a pilated. Okay. I knew I was probably wrong on that. I appreciate that, TWT. I appreciate that.
And when it comes to these noises, like there's a good example being Lloyd. One of the last times we went out to our main research area, I had a few things happen behind me on my walk, my solo walk out there. But then later on is the last day, and we're just sitting around camp, and Lloyd asked me, "Do you hear that?" And I'm like, "No, I didn't hear anything. I think I had something on my phone pulled up." And then there was another noise, and it kind of sounded like a tree break. And we're sitting there, and all of a sudden this tree across from, that big field, the pipeline that we all camped on, Richard?
Yeah.
Well, if the creek's on your left and you're looking straight across, well, back from over where that wood line is, we had a big tree fell down, right? And I don't think there's anything going on with that. Trees fall in the woods. It is what it is. But the fact of the matter is trees make noises all the time that sound like wood knocks and pops and movement and all kinds of stuff. The wind blows and you got two trunks together, they hit each other. And what I've tried to do, especially around here, well, it's easier to do here because of the type of activity I have. It's harder to do when you're, out in bigger open areas. But I like to have at least two different things that confirm that this is actual Sasquatch activity. Like that's where the stuff happening down at the sitting spot is. I get a break, and then I get a wood knot, and then I get some throws. I've got three different types of things. Mm-hmm. Or if you get a rock clack, and then you get something that sounds like a tree knot. And see, tree knots aren't every single thing that I think, they make all kinds of different tree knocks. It's not just one loud shotgun sounding baseball bat against a tree. Like there's all kinds of different levels of knocks and breaks that I think they make. I don't think it's just a standard. I think the most popular one, the ones that people hear the most, are the really loud ones because those are the ones that really get people's attention and they sound super obvious. But even with those, personally, I like to have more than one thing happen and then say,
Yeah.
oh, well, that's a wood knock. Hopefully there's a vocal and a wood knock or a throw and a wood knock or something like that. And then I feel way more confident, to say, all right, well, I think there's something going on here.
Let me interject something real quick. I've got a guy that I've talked to, and actually I've done an interview with him. And after the show, you guys know, a lot of times you'll talk with him before the show, and sometimes you'll talk to him after the show, tell him how much you appreciate it because we all do. And this guy stayed on, and we was talking. He said, "Yeah, I got to do this, do that. Said I'll do better for the next time we do it." And I said, "Great. I'd love to have him back on again." He said something about tree knocks. It come up, and I asked him, "Have you ever done any?" He goes, "Yeah, I sure have." And he said, "I done one time," and said his wife was in the truck. I'm not gonna say who it is because I'm gonna have him back if I can. And he said, when I done it the first time, I was away from the vehicle. He said, I started coming back and he got to the truck. He said, my wife said, "Did you hear that?" And he said, "What did you hear?" She said, "I heard you over there. I could see that you was making a tree knocks, but something over here was responding." He said, "I never heard it." So he stepped away a little bit and he done another tree knock and said they got an immediate response and the thing started howling, screaming. And I can't remember if he said it pushed over a tree, but it made some kind of violent action toward him, or he could have thrown a bigger, let's go limb, okay? Something big that only something like that would want to throw. Said it was making all kinds of wrecks. Said he just got in the truck and he said we left right then and there. Said this, whatever it was, got mad. So I wanted to throw that out there. You know what I mean?
Right.
Yeah, like me, I think with me, wood knocks are subject to whatever, but I think, especially back in the day when I really started getting into this, the one thing I was always looking forward to, because to me it was the cut and dry, was a rock or anything being thrown at me. You know what I mean? Because that really narrows it down really fast. What's going to throw something at you, and so that when we look at wood knocks, like I said, they're subject to different interpretations, but that was always the thing I was excited about when I went in the woods and I would tell people I go out with and say, man, I hope something gets thrown at me. I don't care about a vocal, I don't care about this or that. Man, if I can get something thrown at me, that really narrows it down really fast.
Well, we
Yeah, that was.
Go ahead.
That's the same thing that I think the night that I was growled at and had the rocks thrown at me, where I was more convinced by that than my first sighting. I mean, I knew what I was looking at, and I'd already been dealing with it for a while. But to be there in person and then have that happen, like you said, it narrows it down to two things: it's human or it's a Sasquatch, and that's it.
Yeah,
What were you gonna say, Tommy?
You were more amazed of the growl, you say?
What now?
Did you say you were more amazed about the growl or more?
Oh yeah, it was. I mean, you're talking only about 30 feet away from me.
Yeah.
And then when after it threw the rocks, and then it growled at me the way it did, I mean, it was just instantaneous. I knew exactly.
Yeah, when you
I
have
knew exactly what I was dealing with.
Yeah, when you have multiple things now happening simultaneously, rock throw, growl, or something, that really narrows it down really fast. You know what I mean? You can eliminate the obvious pretty quick.
Not to embarrass you, Johnny. Can you imitate this growl?
I don't have to. I've got it recorded. I've got the It growled at me over, I guess, about a 6 month period of time, and that's when the thing was. I think it was testing me out to see
Mm-hmm.
basically how I was going to react. Is what I think it was doing. But it growled at me that first time because I was being an ass after all the activity was happening around here, and I thought it was human, you know.
Yeah.
So I turned into Billy Bad Butt, and I was running around here with a gun and a flashlight at night. And then the dogs went nuts that night, and I'm like, all right, well, here I go. I'm gonna find out who this is. And then I go out in the woods, and right when I get to the trail, a handful of rocks just lands on. It's like somebody just took rocks and threw them straight up in the air, and then they landed all around me. None of them hit me. And then I walked. I stood there for a minute, and it scared me. And I'm like, but I was convinced. I'm like, all right, well, it's a person. It just threw rocks at me.
Mm-hmm.
So then I start going down the trail again, and right when I get to the same spot, the same thing happens. Rocks start landing all around me. And I yell out, if you hit me with a rock, I'm going to shoot you. And I stood there for a minute, and I walked down. I had a flashlight and a pistol. I'm spinning around, looking around, listening, doing all that. I'm out there for maybe 10 minutes. I get done. I'll walk back to the top of the trail, and I'm standing there at the top of the trail. I'm there maybe, I don't know, 2 minutes, and then it growls at me. It goes,
Ooh.
and I just instantly all, I don't know. I'd probably been doing this for over a year. All doubt was erased right then and right there. Well, then the next time it growled at me, it was a couple months later. I got home from work one night. I parked my truck. I went to get out of the truck, and it did that again. It was over in the wood line, probably about the same distance away, maybe 40 feet in the wood line, and it growled at me. And I wouldn't tell people this story for about a year because I shut the door and I called my wife and I said, hey, I don't know what this thing is, but it just growled at me again. So I need you to bring my pistol to the front door. Don't come outside. Just stand there inside the house with my pistol. And I got out and scurried my way into my yard and went up and got my pistol and walked around or whatever. The third time is the one I've got recorded. And it's pretty much the same thing. When I'm standing in my driveway and I say hello, and it goes, oh. And then it continues on. I've got it. It actually sounds like it's stomping its foot.
Mm-hmm.
The dog's going nuts, and then it actually kind of makes a couple other weird noises or whatever. But yeah, that was pretty much it. That just loud. It wasn't like a lion, like some people describe, but yeah, that's pretty much it.
No, it's different. It's
Oh, yeah.
different. If you go back to the story when that lightning struck that tree, that yell was so much different than anything I'd ever heard. I knew good and well it wasn't a cow. I know how
What
cows make
What did it
noise.
sound like?
It was screaming.
Just a
It's like
scream?
yeah. When I say a scream, when the lightning hit that tree. All right, like I said, it was about 40 yards away. It had to be right there at that tree because when it
Hmm.
did, it just basically laid back, and I can't scream like that, guys. If I do, I'd probably blow up what little voice I still
Yeah.
got. You know what I'm saying? It is like, ah! I mean, it was just really loud, and it was screaming something like top of it because it must have got spooked, scared, or maybe electricity come through the tree. I don't know. I never did find a tree that was struck. If you want to know the truth about it, I went up and looked, of course, but I also was looking for cows, for signs of cows, and there was none. So that's what I'm saying. That scream itself was not like anything you've ever heard before. All right. Now there may be animals that make that kind of a noise, but not where I was at. I mean, the worst things we got out there is coyotes, deer, squirrel, rabbits, apparently Sasquatch, and that's about it. I mean, we didn't even
Yeah.
have rattlesnakes, where I was at. Uh, but anyway, would you say a growl? And the way you're sounding, "Ugh," that sounds like it's more of a huff to me, you know?
Well, I don't know how to.
No, I get it.
Unfortunately, there's just not really anything I know to compare it to except for that. And I think it's more of kind of what the intent was, because it wasn't really a yell, but it was just so deep, and it was obvious. If I would have been standing in Africa, then
Mhm.
yes, I would have been perplexed.
Yep.
But I'm in Georgia. There's nothing out here like that. There's nothing that big that makes that you get that type of lung capacity from. You
Yeah.
know, so
Yep.
it was
There you
just
go.
it just
Yeah.
erased all doubt. You know.
Kind of like you ever hear an elephant when they do that low growl, you know?
Yeah.
I mean,
Mhm.
that's spooky in itself. If your eyes were shut and didn't know an elephant was there and you heard that in the woods, I mean, that's spooky, dude. And it's
Well,
deep because it has such a lung capacity and it's such a large animal.
well, it's just like Tennessee, Kentucky says, deer hoofs are not powerful at all. And he's right. I've had deer huff at me at top of the morning, still dark, don't even know the deer's there. I've heard
Right.
them that
No,
close.
they'll
But
scare the crap out of you, but you know what it
yeah,
Yeah.
is.
yeah.
But you know what
But
it
but
is.
it's the lung capacity. And I'm gonna tell you like this. Uh, Here lately when I started doing this show, and you guys know I started this show as a joke. You know, and the reason I say that, I've got an Alabama football channel, and come the end of the season, I said something about, I already started a Bigfoot channel, and everybody's like, yeah, do it, it'll be fun, right? And here I am, still what a year and a half later, and uh, so I put stuff to test. So I go out, and I've got two other guys go with me. We've got a piece of property about 10 minutes away from here, and we found tree bows that we are. I've got some that's very very weird, and uh, I can't really put it no other way. It was just it shouldn't be there. Let's put it that way. And my wife is the one that finds them. I don't. Uh, she would find these things, and uh, Richard will tell you, we found a footprint. Now we're not for sure what it is. I believe it's a Bigfoot. Richard does not, but that's right. That's fine. That's why he's
I
one of my
no,
peers.
I did not say no. I said there's just not enough information for me to make a determination one way or the
But
other.
no, that is fair. That's why I go
Yeah.
to Rich.
Yeah.
Hey, this is this. What do you think? Because I know he's going to tell me the truth, whether he does, maybe, or no.
And
And
we're
that's
still
why.
friends.
Absolutely, absolutely. Uh, so, anyways, I go camping. I've got my thermal. I've got my night vision, and we've got this fire. We've had a great, good little dinner. Made some hamburgers, French, some fried taters, and so on. And we was just having a good time actually. Now, of course, I don't allow drinking because we're armed. You know what I'm saying? So I'm sitting there that night, and I'm filming over here to my right hand side, probably about 30 yards away, 40 maybe, something like that. And I see this deer, and it's laying down, and plain as day, and she's all green, lighted up, looks like a dadgum light bulb out there. So I hear this other racket over to my right by my Jeep. And I go over there with my thermal and I look, and it looks like some crawling creature. And I take my night vision right over there. It's a raccoon. I said, I got up. I said, get out of here. I don't want you underneath my Jeep in case you might get in there, tear up wires, whatever. So I'm running it off. And I sit back down and I hear something just a little bit. And I go, I put that sucker back. And I turn that thermal over, and sure enough, there it is. I scan over there with my night vision. Yep, he's back. So I got up with my night vision, scanning this thing. A buddy of mine is right there looking over my shoulder because he's fascinated by this thermal. And we're walking to it. We take 3 steps, and this is what I hear. And it ain't but like 15, 20 feet away. Sounded like it come out from behind this tree. So I take my thermal, I go over and look. I got a dog that's got coarse hair. He lights up like a dadgum light bulb whenever I put thermal on. I see nothing, nothing whatsoever. I look, I scan here, scan there. I never did scan up, but the way the voice come from and so deep, it's got to be right here on the ground. I can't see nothing whatsoever, and I don't get it. I mean, I've got my reasonings. I've been told some things, of course, but for such a deep growl, and mine is just nothing compared to what we heard or what you guys heard here. I mean, it was just so deep. It's kind of like I even ask the guy all the time. And we say something about Bigfoot. He goes, I still don't know what that growl was because he heard it too.
Yeah.
So it's just something different about their lung capacity that gets us so deep and so projected. You've heard the stories about, I felt that in my chest. I felt that right through me. It's just amazing. Just amazing. Go ahead, Richard.
Not being able to get them on thermal like that, that's about the most frustrating thing I've ever dealt with in my life, man.
That's all
Especially
right,
when
though.
you know they're out there and you can't get nothing on thermal.
Yep.
I mean, it's frustrating. But
I will tell you,
keep on keeping on.
Yeah,
I will
to
tell you
me,
something about it.
my thermal
Go
is
ahead.
seasonal. I mean, I can't use it during the summer months because it's just so friggin' hot.
All right.
Everything is lit up. I mean, when you look at a forest here in the summertime, even at 10 o'clock at night, it looks like the whole forest is on fire because it's just absorbed so much
Mhm.
heat during the day. So it's more beneficial to me in the wintertime, with the overnight temperatures are in the 50s or 40s or sometimes even
Mhm.
lower. And you can see so much more. So, like I said, not any tool that we have isn't the do all say all. They all have their purpose, but you just got to work them at the right time. And with me, with thermal, it's mostly the winter time or cooler temperatures.
I'm gonna show something to Richard. And if you guys don't know, we're having a camp out in October, and
Next week.
Richard is flying up and going to be a guest of mine in Old Bears and stuff. So we're looking forward to that. We're gonna have a great time. But in this time, I'm going to be trying something, Richard. I don't really want to say what it is until I try it and see how it works. But I think I got a way around that thermal stuff. And
Yeah. Rumor has
it,
it
it
y'all were going to coat me down in peanut butter and send me out in the woods.
No, you better take video. Better
oh
take
yeah.
video of that. I like to see that one.
I'll wear I'll wear my mankini.
Yeah, let's put it this way. He's going to be what I call my Sasquatch bait.
Yeah.
Yep, and he's agreed to it, so I'm good with
Oh, I
it.
did. I don't remember that.
Oh yeah,
Hey,
yeah, yes sir. He sure did. But the
hey, you
one
didn't take those plane tickets for free, did you, buddy? Ain't
not
nothing in
my
life for
first.
free.
Right now, I'm just hoping that plane lands. That's my biggest thing. You work at an airport. You probably have more confidence in planes than I do. But I haven't flown
Oh,
in over
dude.
30. I haven't flown in over 30 years, and I've got some anxiety about flying again.
Oh man, they're so safe now. I mean, obviously it happens, but statistically, you're way more likely to get hurt or killed in a car accident than you are airplane. Even if you flew every day, they're super safe nowadays.
Oh yeah, and I've really had no problem when I've flown in them. They don't bother me at all.
Yeah,
Um,
it's just been so long, and the last flight I took was a short flight from North Carolina to Tennessee. So so I've been on flights a lot longer. When I flew from Japan back to the United States, that was a very very long flight, and
yeah.
luckily I was in the military. I had liquid courage to get me through that trip, but I don't have that option now. So
Well, I'm gonna tell you this now. I'm gonna drop this. Uh, there is a little experiment I'm going to be doing on filming stuff, and I think it'll get around the thermal deal. But until I do it and try it and see if it works, I'm gonna kind of leave it hush hush because I might want to keep it hush hush. You know what I'm saying?
right,
But it's nothing really. It's not a new piece of equipment. It's just my equipment does something that I didn't know. Let's put it
right.
that way. And we're going to find out if it works up there at Salt Fort. We sure are. So
Well,
if
when
it
you have
works good, I'll let you know.
yeah, when you have these get together, anytime you're with a group and you're researching, I don't have that luxury. I'm always by myself. But if I had other people, that's a good time to experiment and try things. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
And do certain things. And like for example, if a Bigfoot's behind a tree, so put somebody at night behind the tree and poke their head out or touch the tree and lean and stuff like that. and then see on thermal, go after that person walks away, go to that other side of that tree, and did he leave a thermal on the back side of the tree? See what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
Did
And
his
they
hand
will.
leave a thermal on the tree? Those are really good experiences, especially to if you're trying to learn your equipment better. You understand what it's capable of doing. Um, it's not just walking in the woods and hoping to hear or see something. You could do experiments while you're out there. So,
Mm-hmm.
and that's always good.
Well, it's like the one time we went to Salt Fork, I said something. I said I want to do an experiment, and basically in the BFRO, back in them days, I'm wanting people to understand that the way people done back then is not the way that people are doing it now. Even though that, yeah, Mr. By the way, hey, Mr. Athens, look forward to seeing you, buddy. Uh,
Yeah, that's the
there's never
expert opinion right there, Mr.
there's
Athos.
never there has never been a truer statement I've ever heard.
that's right. Equal numbers, baby. No, Tennessee. This is South Fork, Salt Fork. I'm sorry, I'm from the South, man. I apologize. Salt Fork, Ohio is where we're going to be at. But you're welcome to come. You're welcome to go. But anyways, what was I going to say? Uh, man, I never forgot. I never forget. Oh, experiments. I said something
Experiments.
about back in the old days, BFRO. I've done a report on one crossing a road one time, and we got sitting there around talking after I'd done the interviews and stuff. And the daddy of this young couple come up, and he wasn't being sarcastic, or he was just as nice as he could be. And he got to telling me some stories. And when he did, I go, okay, where's the cemetery at? Well, it's right over there, about 100 yards. He said. And everybody's mouth dropped like, how did you know there was a cemetery around here? Bigfoot likes to hang out at cemeteries. I don't know if y'all have ever heard of that, but that was a big deal back in the BFRO days, back in the late 80s and 90s, I guess. So when I went to Salt Fork, I found a place, cemetery on their property that we could go to. And we went out there, made some calls. Of course, nothing happened, but it was an experiment. Didn't mean the experiment
Right.
failed, but
Right.
it was worth giving it a shot. Next time you go out there and do it, you might get something that you don't want to get a hold of. But
Yeah,
that's the whole
and
fun
people
of it all.
yeah, and people need to understand that just because you try something it doesn't work, again, you have to be at the right place at the right time. They're
Hmm.
not on our time clock, we're not on their time clock. And we might go to Salt Fork and we're going to spend 3 days out there, 3 4 days,
Hmm.
and get nothing because it's just that time of the year they're not there or they're interested in something else or at another location. It could be anything. I say that all the time that seeing one is a lot of times, I would say probably 99% of the time, it's happenstance. You happen to be at the right place at the right time and you got that thing. It's the rare occasions like Johnny and some other people that it's more frequent because they're they're slap dab in the middle of a hot zone. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
And but that's
That's the
rare.
hardest
That's rare.
hardest part of all this is finding where they. It's one thing to have a sighting in an area. It's another thing to have an area where you know they live,
Yeah.
which is the key to every bit of this is finding where their habitat is and not just where they're passing through.
I asked a question probably today or yesterday, and was one thing, Johnny. It depends on how you look at it. If you're out to study these things, you're a very fortunate man. If you're not, then you're probably a doomed person. Let's put it that way. Yeah, but you can look at it either way. But in your situation, you're a blessed man that you've got them around that comes around your property.
Yeah.
Me, I have to go travel. Like I said,
Hmm.
10 minutes and set up something. Just to see what I can find. Back when my sighting happened, I was very fortunate that there was one there, and at least one, and we did have somewhat of not an interaction, but you know what I'm saying. There was times that if you count footprints, I mean, listen at me, footprints. It walking in the woods, being behind my house, and all that all together. I probably had encounters with it, what, 5 or 6 times, but only one sighting. You know what I mean? So you being where you're at, you're fortunate, and
Oh
we
yeah.
have to learn off of. I made a phone call to you, which we still need to finish that conversation. Um, but I learned stuff from you. I learned stuff from Richard. I may learn something from Mr. Tennessee, Kentucky over here, or John Stewart, or any one of these ladies, that's in the chat and stuff. You never know what you're going to learn from either one of them. And I'm, I wished I was in your position, to be honest with you.
Well, uh, the only way, and I think for obvious reason, I'm biased. I think that the key to all this is going to be to researchers trying to find private property because you've got the
Yeah.
property owner there that knows he knows what's happening on his property, and you can start to put together a pattern. So I wish anybody out there who's in Florida or Indiana or Georgia or wherever, if you have these creatures on your property, you have no idea how valuable you are to this topic in general. Like you have the keys to the city. So
Right.
if you want to be a part of this but don't want to do research yourself, reach out to your local researcher. Reach out to even if it's BFRO or whoever, just find somebody to come out there and hopefully we can make more progress. I was actually going somewhere with this once you said that. Oh, I am standing on, even though I have all this activity happen here, I'm standing on the backs of people who were willing to come forward.
Yeah.
Everything that I learned, Dick, even because it took, because my situation, it didn't start with a sighting. It was 2 years in before I had my first sighting on my
Hmm.
own property. 2 years of activity that, of course, the growl, that solidified, hey, all right, now I got the confidence to really start looking into this. But I learned the things I learned by listening to other people's, like you're saying, other people, even if it's just, a sighting they had that lasts 6 seconds, but learning about where it happened, the time of the year it happened, how it looked at them, what it did, what they heard before, did they smell anything, did they hear anything, all that stuff. I learned all that and then put it to work here on my property.
Yeah.
So without other people sharing that information,
Mhm.
which is I think exactly what you're saying, I personally wouldn't be as far as I am. And it's just other people coming forward and being willing to, it's like the last guy we interviewed, Lee, Angie's cousin, or
Mhm.
I think it's cousin by marriage. He'd never been on a podcast before, and very fortunate that he came on ours first. And he's got a good story. And I learned something. I learned that yet again, it seemed like this interaction, the sighting that he had, was intentional. There was already indicators that that creature was there. He had heard
Hmm.
things. I think he even had a smell. Um, and then he's obviously being loud. He's cutting trees down. There's no way he's hiding from this thing. It didn't just walk up on him on accident. So to me, I learned yet again this seemed like an intentional sighting that this creature, for whatever reason, either just because he doesn't care or because he wanted Lee to see it, he walks right out in front of it. And that's kind of more and more of what it just seems more and more here lately that a lot of these things seem to be intentional. So that's
Mhm.
something new I learned because he came forward. It's just kind of confirmed something I'd already been, thinking about and talking about. But witnesses coming forward is the key to every bit of this.
Oh yeah. Intentional. I feel like is it's already gotten used to seeing you. Uh, I've had people say this and that about my sightings, and you know whether it is or whether it ain't. I only saw it one time, but it hung around. You know what I mean? I wasn't scared of it, and it wasn't scared of me. It was a mutual kind of little deal. We basically shared the woods. If it never throwed anything at me or any of that kind of stuff, so our encounters were peaceful. Now, when I done that tree knot, I may not being armed, it's not as peaceful as I'd like. Let's put it this way. I got to go,
Right.
But the interactions of people and they see it, I happen to say and believe that most of it is by accident, happenstance. I think you said before, Richard, that type deal. In other words, it didn't mean for you to see it. I think once
Right.
you're around one, such as Johnny, and they get used to you seeing you, I see there is a chance that it might just walk out in front of you, and that's because it's not worried about that you're going to harm it or give it away. You know what I'm saying? You're not
Right.
going to do anything to it. Let's put it that way, and it may reveal itself. Uh, but I don't think you're just going to walk out in the woods and the Bigfoot's going to walk out behind a tree and go, "Hey, here I am." I just don't think they'll do that. They've
Well,
got
I
to
use the
mess up.
I use this I use the same when I was a deer, especially when I started deer hunting when I was young, and I was going out with all my friends and relatives and everybody we could hunt with. We'd go hunting, and I was the only one that never got a deer. Never get a deer for when I first got. And I was young, never got a deer, and then they used to joke and say the only deer Rick is going to shoot is one that's got Down syndrome and is deaf. And they just started listing all these ailments that this deer would have to have for me to shoot it. You know what I mean? And
Yeah,
it's almost I almost feel the same way now with Bigfoot. For me to accomplish my goal, which is at least 10 seconds of filming, there's got to be something wrong with him. There's got to be something wrong with him, you know. But like again, I go in the woods because I and I'm a true believer that the more you're out there, the better your odds. Still ain't
yeah,
100%. It's still probably pretty freaking low, but it's better than not going out or sitting at home. So, um, like I said, just putting yourself in the right place at the right time and looking at the signs to let you know that you're in a good area and stuff like that.
right.
So you just got to put it all together, and then, like I said, there's luck involved. I might be walking down a trail, and I happen to be, downwind from him, didn't smell me, and especially if it's a windy day, he probably didn't hear me, and just walks right out in front of me. I would love it. So
There was something that
Are you
John. Go ahead, John.
are you still in the BFRO?
No, no.
No.
I done radio shows and stuff like that back in the days, and when I done that, it was like I had to ask permission, and it was my story. I shouldn't have to ask anybody's
Right.
permission to do anything. It was my story,
Yeah.
and just because I was a member of the BFRO and done reports, it's kind of what it felt like that I was being told what I can say, what I can't say, and I'm not that way. You can go
Yeah.
back and BFR. There's BFR reports that are done that I've done, but my name's not attached to them anymore. They took them off, so we do not like each other. Let's put it that way.
Yeah.
I'm not in it for money or uh, for somebody to know who Icebox is or my channel or anybody's channel for that matter. I'm in it to have fun, to learn, and if I can help somebody settle things in their mind, that's what I'm out to do. But anyways, BFRO was about money, and it's even in his name, and I know that. Uh, but that's all it was about. It's about trying to grab that brass ring and be the leading authority when really it should. It's such a good database. They kind of ruin it. Just to be
Right.
honest with you. So I left them. There were some other people that were disgruntled, and they were what I call very, very, very serious about the matter, and they allowed me to join their group back then. And of course, then after a while, life just got in the way. And when I say
mhm.
that, you got work, you got this, you got that, you move around, and you kind of get away from the Bigfoot stuff. If it wasn't for that little joke about me starting a Bigfoot podcast, I don't know if I'd be here talking about Bigfoot to this day. But since I have done it, I've enjoyed it, and I've met many great people, and I'm still meeting them. You know what I mean? And they're just good people. and strange things happen to good people too. And this is not what I call a society uh, circumstances. I don't care if you're rich, poor, whatever. Some southern backwoods country boy living on a mountain back there with just you and the dog and the wife, or even there's stories of them coming in towns. You know,
Mhm.
so you could be just anybody could have one of these sightings. This is not specific to anyone. Now your chances of seeing one is going to expound so much more if you were living out in the woods, i.e., Johnny. You know, me, not so much. Like I said, I have to go somewhere to even have a chance. You know,
Oh yeah, I
but
tell
Well,
him
I
all the
tell you,
time. He's how lucky he is.
oh yeah, he
yeah,
is
I
very
know,
lucky.
and that's part of. And there's been times that I ask myself, like, why the hell am I doing this?
Yeah,
Why, because dude, I've spent, just like everybody else, but I've spent thousands of dollars on equipment, and you spend, it takes hours and hours to do video and sit down and look at audio and then turn the audio into video and putting it all together to where somebody can understand exactly what's going on, to actually put effort into it. And I've always made sure 100% that I don't take any money. I've always had this, and that's what's unfortunate, is because there's this kind of barrier to entry when it comes to research, or at
Mhm.
least documenting the research, is you got to have a little bit of money at least. You got to have a record. If you just want to do it just to experience it, that's one thing. But if you're actually trying to prove it, it takes money. But even with all that, not only do I thoroughly enjoy it, I feel obligated because I understand exactly how rare this is. Like what time I've described it as a gift. Like
hmm
the chase itself, the experience itself is the reward, you know. And there is a little bit of feeling obligated or whatever. But I did want to say something about about you, Icebox. This is one thing I noticed the other night. Um, it's a good thing you did start uh, doing the podcast. You have, and I don't know if anybody else has noticed this or not, but knowing, I mean, you've technically been involved in this for years, almost as long as I've been alive,
yeah.
and working with the
Yeah.
BFRO and doing all the things you've done, the interviews you do now, and everything else. You're obviously very, very knowledgeable. But when you talk to Icebox and he asks you questions and you're talking with him, you have a special way of talking to people and asking questions that comes off like you don't know what you're talking about. Almost like it really seems like it makes people feel comfortable when you ask questions,
hmm
because you see the curiosity when you're asking people, the honest curiosity. You don't come off like you already know the answer to the question, even though you probably do. It you know what I'm saying, you've got a way of interviewing, and I think it's great, man. I think you're really good at doing it, especially asking questions of people, so
Well,
it's
I
a good thing.
appreciate
it's a,
that.
it's a good thing you did start, even though it started as a joke. I think you're very, very talented when it comes to interviewing people and everything else.
Well, I find a genuine interest in people and hearing their stories. And yeah, you're right. There is probably a 90% chance I already know what they're going to say, what they're going to do. But to me, it's just building that data and letting them tell somebody else their experience. And because it
Right.
builds mine up. And I can sympathize because I know what they're talking about. I can understand the fear. I can understand their curiosity. And it gives them a relief. Now, asking these questions, and I do appreciate the compliment. I really do. But it's I enjoy it more so than they do. You
Oh yeah.
guys y'all might be talking about it after the show. Well, we had a good time. Y'all did not have as good a time as I have. That's
Oh,
the
I'm
way
the
I
same
look at
way.
it.
I love the podcast. I
Yeah.
really I look forward to the next podcast. You know, I always look
Hmm.
forward to it. I like the chit chat and the talks and the discussions. I really do enjoy it a lot.
I'm gonna throw this out there to you because I know we're probably getting off here just a little bit. Uh,
Oh yeah.
to the story, nobody's ever asked, and I was kind of curious. Uh, the next day after I saw this Bigfoot, remember I could sleep late. Okay, this is on a Sunday when I saw it, so I slept late on Monday because I don't have to be at work till 2:30, right? I get up, and if you had listened to the first part of the story when I said the trailer was 3 blocks high in the front, maybe about 1 foot or something like that in the back. Next morning, I get up and my wife goes, so and so come down here to see you. I said, yeah, what did he want? She said, I don't know. I just seen the top of his head go past our kitchen window. I said, babe, I said, so and so is 6'4" with a hat on. You're not going to see the top of his head go past the kitchen window. We're 3 blocks high. This is an old fashioned trailer. It's just that one little slotted deal. You know, you can't see it. I said, there's no way. Whatever it was would have to be taller than 7 foot. Okay.
Mm.
So I get this bright idea. I go outside, and over here on the corner of my trailer, over here on this upper end, it's a dirt road. Okay. Hence Dirt Road Bigfoot. Uh, and it's got gravel in it. But, anyways, when it would rain up against that trailer and it would puddle up. And it was probably about 3 foot, maybe by 3.5, maybe 4 foot wide, whatever. But it was always dust unless it was raining. It would be mud then. So when she said that, I walked over there and I'm thinking in my head as I'm walking, maybe, just maybe, I might got lucky. And sure enough, there was a footprint in that dust. Now that dust ain't but like this thick, it's not enough that you can cast. But in that footprint, I remember distinctly that the heel was 4 inches wide. I remember distinctly from toe to heel is 14 inches. I've had people check the measurements from uh, me explaining how wide and everything was, and they would say, and they will tell you that it equals out to about 7'3". Here's the kicker: only saw 3 toes,
Mm.
only 3 toes. Now these are distinct 3 toes. There are space in between them that there could have been two more maybe, but I can only remember 3 toes. And why is that important? Because back in the days, and I knew Jeff Meldrum, and rest in peace. I know this has been going around, and if you hadn't known, he did pass away. But anyways, uh, Jeff was always real big on proving that Bigfoot was Gigantopithecus. And I hope I said that right. So Gigantopithecus was always 5-toed. So when he found out about my footprint, he didn't want none of it because that was not the agenda of BFRO or Jeff or anybody like that. So that was just a little tidbit that I figured I'd throw at the end of the show.
Yeah, that's pretty interesting, and it's horrible. I mean, actually, the past couple of years we've lost, some very well-known researchers, and I think that Dr. Meldrum was obviously very, very smart.
Yep.
But even, I've watched interviews where they've asked him about the Sasquatch going down on all fours, and I mean, he just basically straight up said no, they don't, and
Hmm.
it's simply not the case, But and I thought about it. I'm like, well, how the hell do you have this? There's no way. I mean, this guy's top notch when it comes to. I mean, he's just so people are sending him stuff from all over the country. You know what I'm
Yeah.
saying? Like, how does he not know that they go down on all fours? Well, no one's giving him the evidence,
Right.
and I think
Exactly.
that's all it was. Is no one provided Dr. Meldrum with sufficient evidence physically that he could put on it in his hand to show, hey, these things go down on all fours. And when I thought about that, I'm like, oh, okay, well, maybe that's what it is. And maybe that makes sense. You know, that, but when you listen to how many stories are out there about them going down on all fours and everything else, you would think that he would have came across that. And that was very confusing to me. But when you're so evidence driven like Dr. Meldrum was, it started to make sense. Well, he's just never been given physical evidence of that fact, so it makes sense that he doesn't think that's a possibility. So, but the
Well,
three-toed thing, I found a three-toed track. It's crazy you bring that up. It's one of the first ones I found here on my property was three toes, and I found that same track, and it's the left foot. I think three different times, and it's just the
mhm.
left foot. And I don't get a lot of tracks out here. Like I've only found, oh God, I don't even know, maybe four in 8 years, and my kids found one of them. It's
Hmm.
just not. I've got leaf litter and pine straw everywhere, so it's except down by the creeks, and then that's where I actually found one of them. But yeah, the three toed deal, that's pretty common actually. There's a lot of people that have reported that over the years. So
Yeah, and that's what gets me. When you got an agenda, it makes you blind to other things. And uh, I'm one of those that believes Sasquatch is an animal. Okay. Now, does it have human traits? I don't know. It could be. It could very well be because there's times it seems like they do. But the majority of the time, it seems like more animalistic to me. So, do I want to listen to paranormal stuff? I want to listen to something of why they think that way because I
right,
might be missing something. I keep my mind open, but until then, common sense and reasoning is what I stand on, and that's why I think it's animalistic, may have human qualities. That's all I'm gonna say. Uh, but it's not my agenda to prove Bigfoot to anybody. My agenda is to learn. I don't care if you just saw one, yesterday, and you don't know a dadgum thing in the world about it. I want to hear your story. I want to see what I can learn and let you tell your story and get it out there to somebody that understands. You know, that's what I'm all about. I'm serious. That's it in a nutshell. Uh,
right,
but without having that so-called agenda, I am open to. I've never heard nothing about a Sasquatch getting on all fours. I'm serious until I met you guys, and I've never understood that or have heard because that wasn't spoken about back in the BFRO days. It was not at
yeah,
all. It was all strictly animal. Period. But getting on all fours, never heard of.
yeah,
Climbing trees, never heard of. Uh, some of the other things that you now know nowadays from listening and talking to other people was never heard of back in those days. It's
right,
changed, and I think even Meldrum kind of backed off of trying to prove that it was something else. Something ancient, which it probably is ancient, but just he was going down the wrong track in my mind. But
yeah. I
he
think
he
though,
was a great man, though. Great man. I've dealt
yeah,
with him. He was a good guy.
I think one of the reasons, and I could imagine too. Um, will you spend that much time going through school and uh, building up an academic pedigree, and you're supposed to be teaching the next generation? I could only imagine how hard it is for someone like that to be involved in this topic, even though it lines up kind of perfectly with what he's dealt with, in his. You're still kind of just. I mean, you're basically like he was a well-known figure, well-known, respected individual in the Bigfoot community. But then, it makes you wonder how his peers saw him outside of the Bigfoot community. What I'm saying is he was taking a massive chance by, putting his credibility on the line as a scientist or as an academic. So I always did respect that that part of what he did. I thought that was commendable.
I had that conversation with him, and when I had the opportunity to sit and talk to him, and that was one of the things I brought up is how's the academic world handle you doing this? And he said
Right.
in the beginning it was rough, but again he because I asked him, does anybody support you? He says they do today. There's a
Right.
lot of people at the same university he's at that really buy into what he's doing now. Now they're not into it like he is, but they buy
Right.
into what he's presenting now. But it took him a
Well,
long
that's
time to
good that
get
he reached that, man. That's good.
Yeah, he said when in the beginning it was rough. Like anybody
Hmm.
else, he thought he was going to be fired. He was being ridiculed. His
Yeah.
even his profession nationwide, all the professors nationwide that's in his field, were starting to question him and stuff like that. But as time went by, he started actually creating a support group where people, you know, weren't they were still on the fence, but they weren't on the opposite side of the fence.
Well, they could look at it as like this, as a scientific research. Because just like you guys said, he was very knowledgeable, top of his profession. In what is it? I don't want to say biomechanics, whatever his study was. I can't even remember
Was it
how far.
anthropology?
Yeah, something like that.
And bipedal motion.
Bipedal motion. That's the word I was looking for. And it was top of his field. And
Yep.
so when you got something like that, and you got okay, people are claiming Bigfoot. If I get footprints and study them, and that's what he done. He was very, very good at that, and could remember. You seen the Les Stroud program where he took the exact copy of Patty or was it Crooked Creek footprint and had a replica made and was there in front of him. He looks at it, he goes, seems like I've seen this footprint before. That's exactly
Yeah,
what's come out of his mouth.
he tried to fool him and he couldn't
Yeah,
do it.
he couldn't do it.
Couldn't do it.
What he spent about $10,000 trying to make the exact footprint, something like that.
Yeah.
He couldn't fool him. That's how good he was. He
That's
was,
awesome.
yeah, he was just a extraordinary man, extraordinary.
Yeah, I saw
Uh,
that. Les Stroud said, "Hey, let's put him to the test." And he
mhm.
had multiple prints. Some were fake, some were, whatever, but he slipped in one that was a copy of a known print from way back when. And Jeff Meldrum looked at him and he explained this one. He goes, "Well, I think this is fake and this is why." And this one, blah, blah, blah. But when he got to that one, he said, he just stared at it and he goes, "This is interesting. Give me one moment." Then he walked over and went to his shelves and he pulls out that exact same print.
Hmm.
And that's when Les was like, "Yeah, you're good. You're good." So
let me say this. There is a, uh, oh, don't lose your train of thought, Tommy. Uh, there is a guy that was an old guy, and there's a guy nowadays that makes this claim. And I'm not disputing the claim, none at all. But I'm going to tell you where I first heard it. There's a claim that coyotes are hand in hand with Bigfoot. And I can tell you who says it, but I don't think there's no need in it. But I will tell you this: he's probably more right than he knows. I talked to and that was one of the benefits of being in BFRO. And guys, let me tell you something, especially the chat. Just because I was in the BFRO at one time does not give me street cred. Okay, it doesn't. This everything that you hear and see, and unless it comes out of people that are there, like Johnny and Richard and other people that's had these encounters, you can't always count on that kind of stuff. Not to me. That's why people like in the chat room are so important to me. All right. But I talked to, and I wish I could remember his name, but he was in Oregon, and he was one of the, I ain't gonna say the big four, but he was associated with them. Let's put it that way. I've heard people say you probably talked to Gallinal or whatever his name. He was a professor in Oregon. Let's put it that way. All right, that's all I can tell you. I can't even remember the guy's name. I'm sure he's passed away by now, and I hate to hear that if it did. Uh, but he said, "You want me to tell you a secret?" Yeah, I'm fresh and new in the BFRO world. You daggum right. I want you to tell me a secret. He says, I think Bigfoot befriended the coyotes. I said, really? How so? He said, well, I figured that they use them for early uh, warning system. I said, you're kidding? He said, no. He said, well, they hang out close to them. So they got basically coyotes everywhere. And when they start barking or howling or whatever, or running, they get an earlier sense of that they need to leave. He said, now, do they still, you hear stories that they'll kill a Bigfoot, or not a Bigfoot, kill a coyote. And I've even heard that they've ate them. That's never seen any proof of it, but I've heard it. But they don't like coyotes, not in my opinion. But befriending them to a certain extent, I think is possible. But I first heard it from that old man way back in like the 80s or 90s. I can't remember when I heard it. And now people are claiming it like they're the ones that come up with it nowadays.
Right.
It first was out way back then.
Yeah, well, I can kind of confirm that that might be a possibility because about three of the major events that I had happen, which we don't have time to go into all that. Uh, there was coyotes around or involved, so that's pretty cool that you brought that up. And we've talked
Yeah.
about that before.
No, we've never
I
talked
don't
about it.
no idea no clue what's actually going on. There's no way I know, but I can tell you on two of the thermal videos I got, there were coyotes there that night. And then the very first night we had at the Happy Place, before we had activity that started with the calls that we recorded, we were playing coyote calls. And then
Really?
after we got done playing coyote calls, the guys left. And maybe 30, 40 minutes later is when the first call happened. And then we had the rock throw and all that. So there was I think there's something there. What it is, I don't know. But guys, I'm gonna
I
have to
think-
end it. I've got about 7% battery life. So
Well, I will say this, and we'll get out of here. That makes me curious of that whole statement between what he says, other people saying, what you just said. Why did it kill them two dogs behind my house? We know
Right.
it killed them.
Yeah.
We heard them yelp. We know that kind of a yelp. So it's kind of confusing one way or the other. I would like to think that they befriended them. I'm not going to understand what he's talking about. He hangs out around them, is my opinion. Okay. But anyways, all right. Johnny, I'll tell you what, it's been fun. Richard, you know how it is. I love it.
Yeah.
But I'm going to let you guys take it from here.
Well, this time next week.
Icebox,
we'll
it's good
be-
having you on, man. We need to bring you back on again and talk because I know you got a lot more to talk about. So we need to do it again.
Sounds good to me, bud. Anytime. I'm here for you guys.
Thanks, bud.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, and this time next week, I'll be standing in front of you. So
Yeah,
Look-
bless
look
my
at-
heart. They
If the
don't-
plane don't crash.
if the
yeah,
plane don't
shut up,
crash.
dude. You're killing me, man. You're killing me, man.
Sorry,
You know?
I had to do it. I had to do it.
all of a sudden, Johnny's got to do a podcast. And
Dude, how horrible would I feel if that actually did happen? Oh my
Oh,
God,
yeah.
I'd never be able to go
Oh.
on video ever again.
Trust me, I'll be saying some very profound words about you as it's going down.
As it's going down. Damn it, shut up.
You son of a. Yeah.
But, yeah.
Like I said, I'm feeling some anxiety. So
You'll be
all
fine.
right. You'll be fine. Yeah. You got to worry about what you get in my truck with the camper going up there than to worry about that plane. Let's put it that way. Yeah. So, all right.
All right, fellas.
Yep.
all right.
Go ahead.
Well, y'all have a good evening.
Thank you, Johnny. Thank you, Richard. I'm gonna step out and let y'all do your thing. Okay.
All right. I'll
Roger
talk
that.
to you guys later, and I will close out the show.
All right. See you guys.
See y'all.
All right.
I'm still here.
Not no more. All right, guys. Thank you for being here. You guys are awesome. It was a great chat room as always. Please hit that like button. I never say that, but it does help the channel if you hit the like button. It helps with the algorithms, and the show's growing. So we're very happy. We got some great guests coming up. If you're interested on being on the show, please reach out to us at sasquatchunredacted@gmail.com. We'd love to talk to you, and maybe we can schedule something and get you on the show and stuff like that. Always looking for guests and stuff like that. And again, next week there will not be a show because I won't be in town. I'll be at Salt Fork with that group up there and checking everything out. I'll be a guest speaker up there. And so if you're in the Ohio area and you're near Salt Fork, feel free to come and check us out. And I think if you just want to come for the guest speaking thing, I think it's like $5 a person or something like that. But you can always reach out to Icebox on his channel. He can give you more information on it since they're the ones running it and stuff like that. So again, I want to thank you guys. I hope you guys have a great weekend. God bless each and every one of you guys, and we will be seeing you soon. Take care, guys, and please hit that like button.